So Steve has spoken at our classes before, and actually, we planned this a few months ago, and I'm glad that he came by. He's the CEO and founder of Founderspace, one of the leading incubators around the world. He's a serial entrepreneur, angel investor. And I was reading through one of his descriptions, and he said that he's one of the best people to actually connect founders to other founders or to potential co-founders. And this is a question that was asked of me by our students a few days ago, like, hey, I'm struggling with finding the right people. So this is the perfect guy to actually reach out to, so I'm glad we have him here. So please give it up for Steve Hoffman. Thank you. Big green button.
We're getting going. Good to have you all here. I see some familiar faces and some new faces. It's great to be here. So my name is Steve Hoffman, but in Silicon Valley, a lot of people call me Captain Hoff because I am the captain of Founderspace. We started 6 years ago, and before that, I was like many of you, I was a startup founder. So I did 3 different venture-funded startups and 2 non-venture funded startups, and I have a lot of experience about what it's like to be an entrepreneur. So some of my startups did really well. Some of them had a lot of problems. So if you have problems, I know what they are. I can empathize, and I've also been through it with my own companies, and I've been through it with hundreds of entrepreneurs around the world that we teach. Now, I'm really happy to be here today at Draper. Our offices are in San Francisco, but we love to partner with other groups, and Draper University is great. All the different startups here, everything that Tim Draper is doing is very innovative. He's one of Tim Draper, I've known him for a long time, and he is just, he thinks like nobody else. I mean, he tries stuff that other people don't even think about. And that's one of the reasons he's been so successful. Now I heard one of Tim Draper's latest things is he's trying to split California up into like multiple states. Crazy idea. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it's definitely Tim Draper. So I'm happy to be here today. I'll tell you a little about Founderspace very briefly, and then I'm going to dive into our main subject. And the topic today is called Neo-Sapiens. And by Neo-Sapiens, what I mean is the new human beings, the new Homo sapiens. So as we know, technology is already changing our lives. We're already getting, pacemakers in the heart is the very beginning, but soon our bodies and our minds will be more and more connected to the internet. And I'm going to talk today about how we and our brains will end up truly connecting directly to the internet and what that will mean for humanity. So, before I go further, one of our partners is AI Angel. You see them below us, and they are really cool. So you should go there because as a startup founder, they have a whole database of venture capitalists, and they can actually connect you with them. So it's free, you just go on there, you check it out, and then they also do the reverse thing, is they will connect venture capitalists once you sign up with you. So it's a really good resource for entrepreneurs. We actually use it to help screen our entrepreneurs that we let into our program, to help find good matches. Founderspace, we've been around a while, and we have really focused on education. So if you don't know me, I'm a very passionate guy. I love what I do. Like, I love doing startups, and I can't stop. I love working with entrepreneurs. And what I found is that the most important thing I can give entrepreneurs is not the money. I mean, the money helps. We invest in a lot of companies. But entrepreneurs have problems they need solved. And educating yourself and providing education, we do it all around the world. And Forbes magazine ranked us the #1 accelerator for overseas startups. And Inc. magazine put us in the top 10 of incubators. And Entrepreneur also ranked us #1. and it's primarily because of how we teach and what we teach. I spend a lot of time traveling, so I'm in Silicon Valley now, but last year I was on the road 70% of the time. So I was just always on a plane. This year I'm trying to stay home more because it's grueling. But we have over 50 partners in 22 countries. So we work, as you can see, all across Europe and all across Asia. I know Crystal's from China. We do a lot in China. So we have a very big presence. We're in Beijing. We've been in Shanghai for a couple years. Wuhan. We're about to open in Chengdu and Xi'an and Hangzhou. So I'm always going back and forth with China. I also work with a lot of global companies. I work with like Bosch of Germany, helping them innovate. We're working with Huawei in China. It's very exciting because when I work with the big companies, I can often partner them with startups who have really cool technology and need the distribution, the support, the money, things like that. So let's kick it off. Oh, before I do, I'll tell you, I'm the author of this book, Make Elephants Fly. And basically, it's about, I've been in the startup business forever, you know, doing my own startups, and then for the past 6 years, working with entrepreneurs, running Founder Space. And the book is basically all that knowledge. I put all the knowledge of basically how startups come up with breakthrough ideas and how they take their products and launch them. So that's the book. It's won the Axiom Award for Best Book for Entrepreneurs. It's a bestseller also in China and many other countries. Okay, we'll dive into the real thing. Okay, mind tech. I'm going to talk now about the future of humanity and technology specifically focused on the brain. So a lot is changing. Our brains have been virtually unchanged for over 100,000 years. So prehistoric cavemen had exactly the same brains that we do today. And if you think about that, that is pretty amazing. Because living in a cave and living in San Francisco or Beijing or London, totally different, right? We, with the exact same hardware, are able now to use cell phones, create rockets to the moon, all of this stuff. What computer? Like, we're used to our computers. Our computers are upgrading their hardware like every month, right? It's getting better. The hardware, there's something new coming out for our computers. Our brains haven't been upgraded in over 100,000 years. But that is actually about to change. We're actually entering a phase now where, we get a new phone every year, or even more often for some people, but we're getting new hardware all the time. In the future, we will be upgrading our bodies and our minds much the way we do machines. And I know this sounds like science fiction, and what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about at first what we're really doing today. And then in the latter part of my talk, I'm going to speculate on where we might be going in the future with this hardware and software. So this is one of our startups. They're out of Korea. They're called SoSo, and they're one of many startups working on what's called BCI. BCI is brain-computer interface. So what it does is there's a whole range of devices now that you can put on your head, and they will actually measure the activity in your brain. And the standard technology for this is EEG. Now, EEG is still pretty primitive, but what's coming next will literally blow your mind. There are new technologies, and a lot of them are being developed by startups and the military that are going to allow us to much more accurately measure and actually communicate with your brain. Now, the nice thing about this early technology is it's non-invasive, meaning they don't have to crack open your skull and put a chip inside. You just put on this device, and with these devices, you can do simple things. So you can do things like measuring concentration. So this startup and many others they have worked on different applications for this, which I'll talk about. So the startup we know in Korea has gotten it out to hundreds of schools in Korea, and they allow children to play interactive games on their iPad, and as they're playing, they can measure the concentration levels, and they can actually control the games by concentrating on them. And this software-hardware combination has proved really valuable for kids with ADD, attention deficit disorder, where they can't focus. So it's training them how to focus, and they can end up learning a lot of things that they wouldn't have learned. They would have had to take drugs to actually focus at that level. Now, there are other companies using this technology for post-traumatic stress disorder. So people who have suffered like in a war or some experience, and they want to have the biofeedback to calm themselves down. They're using this technology experimentally now, as you can see in this picture, for how could you control yourself just by thinking in a game, and what would that mean? So there are going to be many, many more applications. And as I said, the current hardware is still pretty primitive, but the hardware that's coming out right now, literally as we speak, is going to blow open the doors for this. We're going to get to a whole new level. So scientists have also done several experiments on what they call dream reading. And again, it seems like science fiction, but in a primitive way now, what they do is they show you a series of pictures while you're awake, before you go to sleep. And they measure the patterns in your brain as you look at these pictures of a dog and a house and all these things. Then when you sleep, they are able to identify if those same patterns come up in your brain and know that you're thinking of that particular image. So you can imagine if you get a big enough database of these images, you can start to interpret somebody's dreams through the technology. Now, MIT has a technology, and there are a couple startups that are also working on this, that are building mind-reading software along the same lines as I told you there. So the mind-reading software is really interesting because it's much simpler. When all of us speak to ourselves in our head. That's how it's strange that we have to communicate to ourselves by speaking, right? But we will just sit there talking to ourselves. So as we are talking, there's a certain pattern for every word we say. What they're doing is looking at the pattern in the brain, and then they're matching that pattern, they're putting that into a database. And when you're wearing one of these devices, if you think of those words, and the beauty of this is most of the words in the dictionary we don't say. But a subset of these words, actually a small subset, we use all the time. So if you can match the patterns in somebody's brain to the patterns in the database, you can literally start to read their mind. Every time a word comes up, you know it. Oh, that word came up for that individual. Now, will the patterns be identical in every person? Probably not, though the information will be stored in slightly different places. But it wouldn't take long for you to train a machine to read your mind. Now, that's just the beginning. They may be able to have algorithms sophisticated enough, and they get enough samples, enough data, that the AI could actually learn over time what the general rules are for different words, and then you could apply it to anybody. So we're at the very beginning of this kind of mind-reading technology. The next thing scientists are working on right now are brain chips. Now, it seems, again, like who of you would get a chip in your brain? Okay, there's some daring people. You'd allow them to cut a little hole, put a little chip in there. Okay, that's good. Even today. Well, I'll tell you, a lot of people will get chips in their brain, even today, if they have medical problems. So people now, imagine if you're like Stephen Hawking, who recently passed away, and you don't have control over your body, but having a chip in your brain allows you to actually communicate with people better, turn off and on lights, control things, then it becomes very valuable. And they're working on this right now. So there are a number of startups working on this. Let me tell you a little about some of the experiments being done in laboratories. So right now, they have done an experiment with monkeys. Now, a monkey actually broke its back. So the monkey was paralyzed and couldn't walk. And what they did was put a chip in its brain, and then they put another chip after the break. So just by thinking, once they connected that wirelessly, the monkey, within a few hours, could walk just like normal. That's amazing. So if you are paralyzed, and if I was paralyzed and they could get me walking again, I would get a chip in my brain like overnight, right? There would be no question. Like if that could get me walking. This type of technology is in the experimental phase, but it will be rolling out in the next few years. Monkey controls a robotic arm. So they put it, and these are real pictures of the experiment. They put a chip in the monkey's brain, and just by thinking, the monkey could learn. You know, we try something and we see, oh, the arm is moving. And the monkey could learn how to feed itself from the robotic arm. It's very interesting. They did another experiment where they put the monkey in a little electric chair. And again, just by thinking, the monkey could learn how to drive itself around. So it could drive itself all over the place just by thinking. If a monkey can do this today, I think I could do it. Maybe the monkey's smarter than me. I don't know. But, you know, we could do this today. So the technology is actually coming right now where we can have chips in our brain and actually start to interface with the outside world. They are using, there's a company in the Bay Area called Kernel, which is now doing experiments on people with disabilities who want to be able to do more and are willing to try the chip in their brain. So this will become more and more prevalent as time goes on, and many more applications will emerge. And I'm always interested in startups doing this. They did an even more interesting experiment. So at Duke University, they took this poor rat and they put a wireless chip connected directly to its brain. And what they did was they taught this rat how to get food. So they made it do certain things. And it took several weeks for the rat to learn how to extract special food that it really liked. Then they wirelessly connected this through the internet to another rat who had never been taught these things. That rat could get food right away. What does that mean? That means right now we have figured out how to successfully transfer knowledge from one living brain to another living brain. That is amazing, right? Imagine transferring knowledge from one brain to another. It's very primitive knowledge, right? Just how to do things to get food, but it's the beginning of what we're going to see. So the US military, they are actually working on smart helmets right now. These, as you know, when you're in a battle, having a screen, they're doing overlays, different AR stuff, but there's voice is one thing, but voice takes time. Every split second counts if you're in a firefight. When you're in a battle, you want to download and upload information quickly. They are trying to solve that problem. Again, it's so funny because the military contacted me and asked if I would help them, and I'm reluctant to do that because I like talking about everything. And it would be top secret, whatever they told me. So it's like, I don't know. I have a lot of ideas, but I don't want to know what you're doing because I only want to know it's public. So this is public, but how they're doing it is not public. And the different applications for it on the battlefield are not public. But I will tell you, the military, you know, they pioneered the internet, DARPA, and now they are pioneering our interface to our brain. And if you think the internet is big, if you think blockchain is big, this is going to blow it all away. Because there's nothing bigger than connecting our minds to the internet. So what does it mean to connect our minds to the internet? So connecting our brains to the internet is going to radically change how we live. And not just how we live, but how we view ourselves as human beings. So the first thing we'll probably want to do is all of you and everybody else will want to download information, like that rat. If you didn't have to come to Founderspace or Draper University, but could download everything that a smart entrepreneur needed to know, would you do it? Yeah, you'd probably do it. And you probably, you would do it, right? You wouldn't even have to go to college. No more exams. You would just know what you need to know. I mean, I would love that. I hated taking tests, but we all love to learn. We want that knowledge. So the ability to do this, the ability to download information, that is like what the military and other people are that's their holy grail. They want to be able to give the soldier on the ground or the fighter pilot or anybody else information instantly. The other thing you could do is without verbalizing anything, you could literally start to communicate with other people. So my lecture, we could all be standing here silently. And I could just be communicating it to you. I could be talking, you would talk to people, you could literally have conversations with people without ever getting on your phone anywhere in the world. You know, goodbye WeChat or Google Hangouts. We could all just be on our brainwaves, right? Communicating with our friends. They could be dropping in on us. Very strange if we think about it. Sharing memories. Now this is where if you can transfer knowledge and you can communicate because your brain is wirelessly connected to the internet, there's no reason you couldn't extract memories, which are just data, out of one brain and put them in another brain. Now, what would it mean to share memories? All of a sudden, you know, Elon Musk, you want to know like what he's thinking? You could get his memories from yesterday and live his like entire day. If your grandparents or your parents, they instead of showing you a photo album, oh, here's a memory of our wedding. You know, and you could have that memory in your brain. You could literally, yes, there's a question. Okay. So I am speculating here. So I don't know. Like, are our brains, is there a capacity? Well, right now, the amazing thing about the brain is we know so little. So I will tell you that there are people who have photographic memories. They can literally store every experience, every minute of their entire life in their brain and access that. But those people who have photographic memories end up having so much data there that they have a hard time prioritizing what's important. And they aren't that functional, a lot of them, in the real world. The more photographic their memory, a lot of times the less functional. The reason we forget things is because we want to prioritize the important things and access those when we need it. So your question is the brain has to have a capacity, right? It can't be unlimited unless there's some other universe that it's transferring this knowledge to, right? Some other dimension. So if it's tied to the physical world, it has a limit. But apparently the limits are much higher than most of us believe, because most of us forget most of the information in our brains simply to make it easier for us to function in the real world. What happens when you start downloading these memories? Maybe it's like a movie. Do you remember all of it? Maybe not. Maybe you experience it and it becomes like a movie. You might just remember the highlights of what you experienced. But if you're looking at connecting our brains to the internet, one of the things we'll be able to do is we'll be able to outsource functions of our brain. So we'll be able to outsource, we'll be able to upload our memories to the cloud. So let's say you don't want to, you want that memory forever, right? You're like, it's automatically probably being stored in the cloud for you without you thinking about it. Just like these automatic backups on your computer, you know? Everything, there's a copy and there's redundancy and there's like many versions. And so your experience, you could access it later. And they have a Black Mirror episode, I don't know if you've seen it, which is all about this, right? A really cool episode where, you know, you could replay any memory you have. Definitely, if our brains are connected, that would be a possibility for something that could happen. You could outsource processing power. You know, some of us, you know, calculations and things like that. You know, we look at a spreadsheet, and a lot of us, some people can instantly, like some people are savants, you know, they can compute pi to the 100th digit, and they can run math in their head, very complex equations. Other people have a lot of trouble with that, like me. I can't do those amazing math feats. But if we're outsourcing the processing power to the cloud, yeah, all of us could be geniuses, you know? We look at some real complex integral problem, you know, and it's just solved for us by thinking about it, yes. The next thing that is really interesting is, you know, everybody's talking about augmented reality and VR right now. Our minds are actually much more powerful than any VR or AR device. So, imagine, I want you to think about this. When you dream, when you're in a dream, it's like virtual reality. You know, I had some crazy dreams last night. I do every night. And, you know, those dreams are real to us, and we see everything, we touch, we can even feel, because our mind can create this total experience. If you've taken any drugs like LSD, suddenly it becomes real, right? Our minds are actually doing AR or VR, right? Putting dragons in the room and creating like all this stuff. We're able to, the point is, we are able to do that with our brains as they exist right now. So there's no need for external hardware. Once we tap into the brain, there is the potential that our minds itself can actually create overlays of AR and VR. If we have algorithms that stimulate the right things and give it the right data, we could literally see a screen pop up. We call it hallucinating, right? But these would be controlled hallucinations run by algorithms that would give us everything AR would without any glasses, without any contact lenses. That is an idea I thought would be very interesting to explore, because our brains are now capable of doing it. How do we get them to do it? How do we control it? That is the question. But you can imagine us entering entirely living in the real world as we do now, and also living in this virtual world where they are combined right inside our minds. Now, our minds are so amazing, because did you know, when you are looking at me now, when you look at me now, that what you are seeing is not really me. Now, what you are, your eyes are not, your brain, it's not like a video camera. You're not getting a video feed. What you are doing is you are getting a sense of the room, and your brain is recreating it in your head. So even the reality, and if you read enough books on the brain, which I've read way too many, you will understand that our minds are actually creating reality. So what a very interesting experiments that they've done is, number one, we all have a blind spot in our eye. That center of our eye, that center, there's a blind spot right in the middle. But our brains actually fill that in. So like none of us see a hole as we look around, but that hole is actually there. Our brains are just filling it in with what it thinks should be there by our own algorithms of what we expect to be there. When you You know magicians who can trick you? They have a ball, and all of a sudden appears a ball. You know, you're like, how'd that happen? Well, they do it because your eyes don't see what's really there. Your eyes see what your brain tells them is there. So if you think a ball is here or not here, your brain will erase it. Your brain does this all the time. It actually puts stuff where it isn't and removes stuff. This AR and VR stuff is happening every single day of your life. So when you walk around, you're actually, your brain is creating a reality. And a lot of times, you know, you'll look and you'll see something and then you'll look again and it'll be a little different, the color or something else. It's because your brain is always changing it based on what it expects to be there. And that's because it's slow. Things are slow. Getting information in and out is slow. And your brain needs to react quickly. And it requires a lot of processing power. So your brain is actually fudging it to make, you know, vision requires a lot more processing power than audio, than hearing. So your brain, like what you hear is closer to reality than what you see. Because your brain is filling in all the gaps between what is there, in reality, and what your brain expects to be there. So here's another idea I was thinking about, is that when our brains are connected to the internet, our physical bodies become less important. Now, think about that. If our brains are connected to the internet, and if our brains are all connected, all of us connected, I could literally go into your head and see through your eyes. So all of a sudden, like for a day, like, you know, a lot of us, because you're entrepreneurs, think it would be cool to go inside Elon Musk's head for a day and walk around. Well, Elon Musk may allow people to get that feed and literally live through what he sees. Now, it wouldn't just apply to other human beings. It could also apply to robots. So literally, I think Elon Musk's going to have a hard time colonizing Mars. It's a much harder problem. I mean, if you read a lot of books on it, and I know he has, it's a really hard to get humans living on Mars and surviving. But what we will have in the near future are robots that live on Mars. And these robots will have sensors. They can touch the soil. The toxic Martian atmosphere won't affect them. They can hear things. They can talk. They can do all these things. If we connect our brains directly to the internet, we could go off and explore these other planets through these surrogate bodies, through these robots. So you could be exploring other bodies, and these bodies, the beauty, now this is where it gets really amazing. These bodies, they don't have to be like they aren't limited to what the human body is. We have 5 senses, right? And they're pretty limited. These guys, this could be a dragonfly, right? You could tap into a dragonfly and be flying through the flowers, or a bee, pollinating all the flowers. And it could be a robotic bee, and it could have different senses than you ever imagined. Like when you go into a sweet-smelling flower, like that one, it could actually create these new feelings and sensations that you would be transmitted to your brain that you had never experienced before, because the sensors in it are different than the sensors we have. And our brain would start to interpret them. So they've done many scientific experiments where people who lost their arms, they would put an artificial limb on them, but the people would feel pain in their limb. Like your arm is gone, but they still feel pain. How is that possible? That is because the old arm that they had in their body was mapped into the brain. Was literally, your brain, your body just happens to be the way it is. We could be a totally different type of organism, and our brain would adapt and map those sensations. So what they did was they would actually show the person in a mirror as if they had an arm, and they would touch that arm, and then the person would start to feel stuff in an arm that didn't exist. So people who had lost their arm, when the visual, they see something is touching their arm, they start to feel it even though nothing is touching their arm. The arm is artificial. They have done these experiments, I saw them at MIT and other universities, where they give people through VR the body of a doll. And they start playing with the doll, and because it feels, they're being told it's their own body, within a very short time, a matter of minutes, they start to feel things. Because first they start touching their real leg, and they start touching the doll's leg, right? And then all of a sudden they feel like the doll's leg is their leg. And then if they come with a scissors to cut it off, people freak out. They're like, no, because in their mind, it's their real leg. Even though consciously they know it's not their real leg. It's just an artificially created thing. What I'm saying is the same science that they are doing in the labs now, when we start to get feeds from other machines, other inputs, sensors that we don't have, things, imagine our taste, right? We can only taste so many flavors. But we will be able to create sensors in the future, sensors that can taste a huge variety of different things that are out of our range. We will be able to create sensors that can hear things that are out of our hearing range. Like dogs, they can hear stuff we can't. Dogs also can smell a huge range of smells that we can't smell. In the future, by connecting these things directly into our brain, we will be able to experience a life and sensations that we never even imagined possible. We'll become much more than human, or we will transform ourselves so that the reality we're living in is much richer and deeper than it is now. I hope I'm giving you some ideas for startups. Some of you are thinking, well, this might be good. So the other thing is, you wouldn't, and this gets to the gentleman's question, we have our own life, right? Like I have my life, you have your life. I feel my pain, but if I'm in pain, if I'm very sad, or if I get injured, you might feel empathy towards me. You'd feel like, oh, you might feel sad for me, but what you feel is your own sadness. You can't feel my sadness. Only I can feel my sadness, and only you can feel your sadness. But as soon as we connect our brains to the internet, emotions are also data. We could start literally to feel somebody else's pain. And now we say, I feel your pain. We don't really feel their pain. But in the future, we may actually really feel their pain. Like if they're sad, all of a sudden we could tap in, to your wife or girlfriend or boyfriend, and you could be like, oh my God, I feel your pain. I feel your anxiety, You would really bond. Now, what does this mean? All of a sudden, we wouldn't be trapped. Like all of us right now, we are trapped in our own little bubble, right? We feel and we experience things, but there's always this kind of barrier. In the future, that barrier is going to come down. So I can not only feel what you're feeling, like we could literally merge. I could experience your life and you could experience my life. We could be living potentially, remember, this is like science fiction now, what I'm talking about. But this is what we have to do, right? Because some of this will come into being and others won't. But potentially, we could actually experience other people's lives, and we could actually live lives that are a combination of lives. So we wouldn't have a single life. We would have, you would have almost an infinite number of lives to explore. I could go back and people could upload their lives, and you could go and experience them, and we could merge our lives. It gets very strange, and I don't even know how to articulate this, but there's something there. So my point is that as this technology emerges, we will be creating our own new realities. So there will be a reality, like what we all live in now is the reality of being these bodies that have been around, that have evolved over millions of years and, have been the same for over 100,000 years. We are entering that world of neo-sapiens where there is going to be a reality beyond anything any human being has experienced in the past. We will literally also, if we are connected to the internet, we will become the internet. We will end up becoming one giant organism where all of us are interconnected, where my emotions and my pain and my memories and my life and your emotions, we're just swapping them, just like we swap all this data online right now. It is just becoming one giant thing. Now, a lot of mystical philosophers and great thinkers have posited the idea that heaven is that ultimate unification of all of consciousness, right? So, whether you call it nirvana or heaven or any other name, it's transcending yourself, becoming more than yourself and entering a space where you are truly part of a being greater than yourself. So there is that potential as we create the internet to create a sort of heaven where all of us are together, and all of us we're in this greater world of sensations and ideas and sharing than we have ever had before. But there's also a danger. So, like any technology, there are great things we could do, and then there are very horrible things that could result from it that are unanticipated. Now, if somebody hacks into your cell phone or your bank account, they can steal your identity. But it's not your real identity. It's more like your money. And that's bad enough, right? That's pretty bad if you get hacked and they steal your, they do identity theft. But if they're connected, if your brain is connected directly to the internet, then it will be real identity theft. They could take you. They could literally erase you. They could reprogram you in a way without you even knowing it. So you think you're in control of your own will, but it's actually somebody else. And who do we trust with this technology? Well, apparently not Mark Zuckerberg. He didn't do that good a job at protecting our data. Do we trust a government? Do we trust Donald Trump? Who do we trust? Yeah, decentralized, a blockchain, right? You're going to have technology that protects us, technology which really doesn't exist today, and it has to be so foolproof, and we have to have so much faith in it that we're willing to open up our brains to that potential of being hacked. So my final slide here is that, our future could go two ways, right? We could literally create heaven on earth. So we are all one giant being, and we are all working in unison, and we are experiencing these amazing things. Or it could be hell, where there's some evil AI or evil people controlling everything we do, and we're more like zombies, where we don't even know it. Like we think we're free, and we're not actually free. So whichever path we go down, I'm speaking to entrepreneurs around the world because I think we want to raise awareness for this. Like all of you in the room here are some of the super creative, ambitious people who are embracing technology. Well, you're going to be building a lot of this. And in essence, you're going to be setting the direction for the future of humanity. So what you build, whether you like it or not, whether you think deeply about it or not, is going to have a profound impact on where we are headed as a human race. So I believe these discussions I'm just kicking it off, but we're about to have an open discussion, are something that we need to have around the world, and we need to start talking about the morality of it and where we want to take it. Because if you honestly believe we won't go there, right? People won't allow this to happen, I will tell you, it's going to be very hard to stop. It is going to be very hard to stop. Think about it. I talk to people all over the world who say, I wish I didn't have to use a cell phone because it's like interrupts me all the time, and there's too many, distractions. I'm not spending enough time with other people. And at the same time, we all use these cell phones because we can't live without them. Well, this technology is going to be way, way beyond the cell phone, right? Look, everybody around you suddenly going to gain infinite storage capacity. They're going to be able to communicate on a level that you can't even communicate. They're going to be able to feel and see things you can't do. They're going to be super smart because they're going to have the cloud processing power of the whole internet. You will believe, if you don't connect, you are totally on the outside. And those people who connect are going to be so much more powerful simply by the nature of that connection. So technology has a way of forcing, it's sort of a one-way path. I've never seen humanity roll back technology. What we can do is control it. So like with nuclear weapons, we barely kept those in control, With other weapons, not so much, like chemical weapons. But we need to start talking about this now. I know Elon Musk is a big person talking about this. Any other people will be discussing it. So that is my talk. I just want to say before we open it up to questions, if you want to reach me or any of our team, Steve Austin, are you here? Yes, Steve's on our team. He's our lead instructor. He's an amazing guy. If you like me speaking, wait till you hear Steve. He's a passionate man. He's amazing. And then Naomi's there. But you can just go to founderspace.com and you just contact us. We always respond. So we'll always respond. You won't be ignored. And, okay, thank you very much for being here. And we are going to open it up